What is up, wrestling fans? Welcome to another Superstar Scores edition of the Smark Moments Smack Talk podcast. I'm your host, as always, Tony Mango. Joining me, as always, are Callum Wiggins.
Woo, insert O's.
And Robert DeFelice.
Otherwise known as Who, because I inserted an H that doesn't need to be there.
We're talking about Ric Flair today. Apologies for my foggy brain a little bit and my lack of energy. I'm feeling very sick today, but I think I'm still doing better than what Rick was doing during his last match.
Right away.
Yeah, that's why we're talking about it, because he had his retirement match, and that happened on
his most recent one.
His third retirement match, maybe more, if you don't count some of the other ones. But we are going to be given the usual breakdown here of the 10 different categories that we've got. And if you've not checked out the previous 30 or something episodes of the Superstar Scores, here's a quick rundown. What we're essentially doing here is we're rating Ric Flair's full career, like his peaks, his lowest marks, kind of balance it all out, from 0 to 10 on 10 different categories that are broken up into 2 little separate umbrella categories per piece for 5 main topic, essentially. We've got athleticism, psychology, charisma, character, physique, entrance, professionalism, public relations, popularity, and credibility. We'll explain what those are as we go along here, but as we tell you what our numbers are, we want to know what your scores are, so by all means, drop a comment below on YouTube. If you're over there, you should also be hitting that like button, subscribe, ring that little notification bell as well, kind of keep that party going with those comments there. But if you're not listening to this on YouTube and you're listening elsewhere, then go to smarkoutmoment.com or send a tweet or do something along those lines. But yeah, that's kind of the setup. As I said before, we've done this plenty of times, so you should be aware of how it works, but if not, we'll give you a little bit of a breakdown. So the Nature Boy is who we're focusing on here. And we're going to start off with the ring skills section. Now, that is athleticism and psychology. Athleticism is their signature moveset, their finisher, whether or not they botch a lot, their ability to perform a wide variety of moves, or if they're extremely limited. So essentially, you're looking at, for instance, a great Khali, not very athletic. Somebody like a Shawn Michaels, very athletic. So we're kind of going in there. Psychology is more of their storytelling capabilities. So if they are having their arm worked on during a match, are they selling that is still hurting them, or do they just up and forget, like what John Cena used to do a lot? Or are they able to keep a long match interesting, or do you get bored watching their matches? That kind of stuff. So I currently have, and I'm going to kind of adjust, of course, along the way. We always kind of influence each other. I currently have Ric Flair at a 5 for athleticism. This is going to sound really harsh, but I've never really thought that his matches were all that thrilling. Now, psychology, he's going to get a higher score for that. I currently have him at an 8. But I can be persuaded towards a 9 or a 10. Because to me, a Ric Flair match is not about whether he's doing a whole series of moves and, wowing the audience like that. It's him doing things like poking the eyeball of his opponent or trying to weasel his way into a victory, or even when he's doing a little bit of the overselling, that's still more of the psychology aspect rather than athleticism. So I got a 5 and an 8. Could make me go up and down. I don't know. What do you guys think?
I have an 8 and 9. I think Ric Flair, for his time, the athleticism was one of the top people there. His conditioning was there. He would go an hour every night. I think that he's one of the most athletic wrestlers of his day, and 8 is right about where I'd place him. He's not like a, Ricky Steamboat. He's not, flying around the ring per se, but he is the conditioning is there, so I give him an 8. For psychology, I give him a 9 just because a lot of what he does play around psychology, whether we like it or not. That's the reason he was able to do an image of what he used to do at the age of 73, because it's so based on head games and lack of bumping, and you know what I mean, it's more based on the work aspect of wrestling.
So I'm going 8 and 10. I think that Ric Flair, as Rob says, would go Broadway matches pretty much on the regular. So his conditioning is excellent. He's got I don't want to say like the widest move set, but he made the most of what he had. I mean, we could look at a lot of wrestlers over the years, and they all rely on a very limited, finite set of signature moves, and Ric Flair was no exception to that. It's the knife edge chops, the chop blocks, tack to the leg, the figure four leg lock, which is one of the more like well known submission moves in wrestling history. So I guess we have to give that credit as well. It's climbing up to the top rope and then always being thrown off. That sort of thing. That's one of his moves. And I give him 10 for psychology because despite the fact that he had quite a limited move set, it's the sign of an excellent worker and one of the best workers of all time to take that limited move set and stretch it out over a 60-plus minute match, and which he would do with people like Ricky Steamboat and Sting and all these other legends over the past.
And let's not forget, he was tasked with working with some, you know, crappy wrestlers. Like, he had to go an hour with, like, people like Tyree Pride, who Tony probably has no idea who that is. And, like, he had to go an hour with the Junkyard Dog, past the Junkyard Dog being really, really at the top of his game. So I think he's legitimately one of the best of all time. Not that that's any secret to anyone.
Oh, you're persuading me to go up to a 6 on athleticism because I forgot about the hour-long matches and everything, but I'm still can't give him a higher score than somebody like Cody or Paige or Matt Hardy or other people that I've given higher scores to.
I think, well, this is important. How often do you go back and watch Ric Flair from the 80s? Like, what is your perspective of a Ric Flair match?
I've never really enjoyed a lot of Ric Flair matches, to be honest. Pretty much across the board. Like, my main Ric Flair match is the 92 Royal Rumble, which doesn't really count. But to watch, like, Flair versus Steamboat, for instance, it's a style that I'm not super duper fond of. I can appreciate that, you know, that's at a different era, but at the same time, that era just doesn't speak to me. So, I will be way more on the positive side of things when we get to the mic skills, though, because charisma and character, if you don't understand what it means, I mean, charisma, we're going with their mic skills just in general. You know, can they cut a promo without stuttering? Are they repetitive? Do they keep things fresh? Do they keep you interested when they're talking, or are you kind of zoning out? And then character, you know, their heel or their face stuff. What's their gimmick? It's 10s. It's Ric Flair.
I went with a 10 and a 9. I went with a 9 for character, 10 for charisma, because Ric Flair is easily the most charismatic wrestler of all time, bar none. He's fun to watch. It's exciting. It's character. It's just loud and vibrant. The only reason I didn't go with a 10 on character is because at the end of the day, like, there were more colorful people even in his day. And I think that he brought the levity as opposed to someone like Hulk Hogan, who was all character, all Captain America, yada yada. And but Flair's fantastic. Like, these are the highest marks he'll get from me with this 10 and this 9.
Yeah, so 10 for charisma because he's Ric Flair, and whenever he had a microphone in his hands, it was the most entertaining segments of the entire night, pretty much. I mean, his matches were great, but he was a force of personality whenever he would be whether it was one of those NWA things where just standing around a podium, just capturing everybody's attention, just owning the room, whether it's moving into like WWE where he's like just the more elder statesman, and the things with like the Royal Rumble Night 2, the tear in his eye, all of this great stuff, that massive shoot promo on Eric Bischoff when he returned, just tore him to shreds. It's like that he's had so many memorable moments on the microphone. I also gave him a 9 for character because even though he is a false personality and the character is styling, profiling, limousine riding, jet flying, kiss stealing, wheeling dealing, son of a gun, that was his character. And he didn't really branch out too far beyond that. And also, you have to take away at least 1 point for Black Scorpion.
Forgot about Black Scorpion.
And potentially like and unfortunately this never came to fruition, but him potentially debuting WWE as Spartacus or something.
No. Spartacus was what Jim Herd wanted to do to him.
Right? Yeah, that's it. I was getting confused. Yeah, so essentially just like get rid of his again characteristic long blonde locks and turn him into a gladiator, essentially. Just it's a sign
Spartacus.
It's a sign that Jim Herd should have stuck to running pizza shops rather than stepping into pro wrestling.
Hey now, ding dongs, great idea.
but yeah, I'll drive a little bit for that because I think he was so Ric Flair that he never got a chance to really branch out beyond Ric Flair. He was essentially, well, as a kid or like as a younger wrestler, obviously he was a lot bigger. But then when he became Ric Flair after the plane crash, and that became that more Buddy Rogers-esque Nature Boy character, which is also like his moniker is stolen from Buddy Rogers, so I'll take that as well. And he never really managed to move beyond that point. He was either just super heel and then got to the point where everyone loved him so much and he was such a legend that he could never really turn properly heel. Everyone was still going to treat him as the babyface and woo all his matches. But that's why I'm giving him a 9 instead for character.
I might go back and I might dock him a point there. I'm not too sure. Let's move over to appearance. We've got physique and entrance. Entrance is pretty self-explanatory. It's, what do they do when they're heading to the ring? So that includes their music and their pyro and whatever actions that they do, their taunts and all that. And the physique is their body shape, essentially. And we've said this before, but just to reiterate, not everybody has the same body shape, so it's not like you have to fit a certain standard of like a Randy Orton or anything. But if you are in a position where that's your gimmick is to have a certain other body type, then that's factored in too. But I'm not very high up on the score for physique for Ric Flair. He pretty much went from the big and burly era to the out of shape kind of that we've seen over the past, however many decades. At his peak, he's maybe like a 7. But since he wrestled so long after that, when I think of Ric Flair and I think physique, I think very low. So I'm kind of balancing it out a little bit. I got him at a 6 right now. How do you guys feel?
I've got him at an 8 because he was, his physique was great for, again, his day. And I think that with the exception of what we saw last Saturday or what we saw last Sunday, the physique was always pretty at the level of Ric Flair. I think he kept himself in good shape. So I give him an 8 for just being balanced throughout his career.
I went for a 6 as well. I think that it was never really about him. The way that he worked and the fact that he had so much charisma meant that he never really needed to, not that he never put any effort in, so I would say that, but the physique was never the big thing with him. Like, he looked good for a wrestler. The hair is a big part of that as well. But he was never like ripped or jacked at any point. He was just, in good shape. And then as he gets older, he's in really good shape for a guy of his age, but he's a guy of his age, and there's only so much for shape you can be in. I'll put it this way: you compare, and I wouldn't never necessarily, from an in-ring perspective, talk about this guy ahead of Ric Flair, but Hulk Hogan at the later parts of his age was in considerably better shape than Ric Flair was, at least from a visual perspective. I'm pretty sure Ric Flair, as was pretty much the case for his entire career, could work circles around him at any age. But I think that the actual body shape of Ric Flair, I mean, you see that's the point where towards the end of his run with WCW, he's wrestling in a shirt all the time because he's very self-conscious about the way that he looks.
Towards the end of his career, he's wrestling in a shirt because for some reason he wrestled in a shirt for his last match.
Yeah. So, well, I think there's good reason for that. It's the 73 aspect of this.
Fair enough.
I just think that, especially because he wrestled for so long towards the end, we saw him wrestling, well, not consistently, but fairly often with TNA in his 60s. And he wasn't looking that great at that point. So I think that due to that aspect of it, I'm going to go down to the 6 because I think for the vast majority of the career, he was in totally fine body shape, and especially early on, he was like burly and muscular. And I mean, he's never been bad looking, but like, you know, that was more of like the prototypical wrestler shape. And then due to the plane crash, he shrinks a bit. He can't put on as much muscle. He relies more on his force of personality to be seen as an otherworldly character rather than the way that he looks. So yeah, Physique's a bit further down for that.
Now, entrance, I got him out of 10. Because not only is also Sprock Zarathustra one of my favorite songs of all time, just because it's so friggin' epic and everything, and not only did I make that my entrance for my wedding, of all things, but you got the robe, you got the pyro when he was able to have pyro here and there. It wasn't a regular thing, but you know, sometimes they gave it to him. You got the woo that everybody just the entire time that he's going to the ring, that becomes a big thing. He feels larger than life. And when I'm looking at the rest of the scores that I've got compared to, you know, like a Chris Jericho or a Goldberg or Undertaker, those people have some 10s. Yeah, I'd put it on that same kind of level.
Got him at a 9. Like, it's a great entrance. It's just like a notch below Undertaker, who I think is greatest entrance of all time. Ric Flair, in a lot of ways, invented the modern entrance. You know, he came out with the music and the robe, and he was one of the first people, I'm sure, to get pyro when they were getting pyro. You know, he nailed the flair of it all, pun intended, and he's fantastic.
Yeah, I'd say that I'm probably going to stick with a 9 as well because the music is, again, iconic. It's iconic because of both for Ric Flair and for what do you call it? 2001:
Space
Space
Odyssey.
Odyssey. Yeah. So that the music is well known from that perspective, and yeah, he definitely came out looking flamboyant. The robes were great. The looks great. He would usually come out with like a bevy of valets as well, depending on what company he was wrestling in. And the crowd was super into it, especially towards the end of his career, because it just felt like a big moment when Ric Flair would come out. I mean, the one that immediately stands to mind when you think of like biggest Ric Flair entrances is WrestleMania 24. Just like all the fireworks going off, the robe that he was wearing, just all of that is just that. I mean, if all his entrances with that, it'd be hard pressed to say like 10, 10, 10 across the board. But for the most part, throughout the majority of his career, especially towards WWE and in WCW, it's like his entrance was his entrance. It's him, it's robe, it's that music, and yeah, you just walk out. I think that at a certain point, there are certain other people that like it's not Undertaker level, it's not like Triple H, those sort of people. Like I kind of see them as like having entrances that are slightly more iconic than Ric Flair's beyond the music itself. So I'd have to just give him a 9 for that reason. Still at the very, very top tier, but I think there are some that have more memorable, have a longer series of memorable entrances.
Also, bonus points for the 2 different songs that they used for the Four Horsemen, Coast and I don't know if the other one actually has a name, but the 2 songs for the Four Horsemen are 2 of my other favorite songs too. So even though that wasn't really the great entrance as far as like, yeah, they're not coming in on horses or anything, still a big fan of those songs. Behavior. You get some points docked on this one. Backstage professionalism and public relations. To further elaborate on what those mean, backstage professionalism is essentially whether or not they are a politician behind the scenes. Are they a locker room leader, or are they somebody who causes problems? Do they willingly put people over and try to help out their fellow people, or are they more concerned with, hey, I want to win, and if I don't win, then I'm not doing business? Public relations is the stuff outside of the company. Do they do charity work? Do they do talk shows? Do they promote the company well? Or are they getting arrested and causing scenes and having problems that are making the company look bad? We're not on pretty high scores on this. I think we can all agree, right?
Well, for Backstage, I have him at a 7, because regardless of his outside the ring stuff, which we'll get to with the public relations, everybody, for the most part, in wrestling loves Ric Flair. Like, even you can knock him a few points for getting into a fight with Eric Bischoff, but even Eric Bischoff today loves Ric Flair. And I think when you can get the entire wrestling world to put on a show for you so that you can have another final match at 73 with everyone from The Rock to Shawn Michaels to Nick Aldis to Ziggler to Undertaker sitting front row, just so they can all say, we love you, we will always love you, we always appreciate you. I couldn't give him a low score here. And on top of that, you talk about putting people over. I don't think Ric Flair was ever a stickler for, I have to win this match, because clearly he's lost many, many times. So I got about a 7 for Backstage. Public relations, I guess I'll just go here. I'm at a 4, because he's not great behind the scenes. And I bet at a 4 I could be swayed to go lower. I still probably have him higher than one of you two do, but he's not great here. This is where the character part catches up to him, because as much as we love Ric Flair, the character, it strongly, strongly appears that he was never able to not be Ric Flair, the character. And we've heard a lot of stories about the things he would do behind the scenes that are, definitely looked upon in a different light in 2022. So much so that he was removed for a while from the WWE signature. And it's not a great look all the time when you're the Nature Boy. But I give him a 4.
What about you, Callum?
So for Backstage, I'm going to go with 7 as well.
All
Mainly
7s then for us?
Yeah, mainly due to the fact that, he has had some scuffles and problems behind the scenes. There's pretty much anybody that's had a 50-plus year career, I'm sure, has had plenty of altercations and issues behind the scenes, and dramas, both of his own making and of other people's as well. The Bischoff thing, I assume he's had plenty of stuff with Four Horsemen as well. And I think that even in spite of all that, the whole wrestling world reveres Ric Flair. So it's gotten to a point, especially now, where he could say all these things or do all of these things, and people just could say, Ric's the greatest of all time, and we'll just almost let it slide. And that actually brings me to the public relations side of things, where I've given him a 6. Because I'll put this completely out there. If someone came into the wrestling business today and did everything that Ric Flair did, they'd be out of the wrestling business before they even had a chance to like win one world title, let alone 16, because it's a completely different era with completely different sensibilities. Someone like a Ric Flair wouldn't fly nowadays, unless, well, Ric Flair might be able to get away with it because of just how charismatic and over the top he is. But it's gone to a point that, yes, he's had so many things come out against him that he is an alcoholic and he is somebody who spent way too much time chasing women despite being married and having kids at home and all this stuff. And he's been divorced multiple times. And then there's the plane ride from hell incident, and that's just the one that we know about. And then all this other stuff that could be out in the atmosphere as well. And it should kill anybody's career. Like, fucking hell. Like, look at Hogan. There's a lot of people that really dislike Hogan, and there's a lot of people that really dislike Flair, and it's like, and I can't blame them for doing so. But Hogan suffered a lot of stuff as well, and his name is dragged through the mud to the point where people won't cheer him. If Ric Flair comes out on an episode of WWE TV, he's getting cheered. And that's just, again, I'm not saying it's right that they do cheer him and they, or that they should be booing him the same amount as they boo Hogan or any other thing. That people have the right to do whatever they want to do. But I just feel it's a bit odd that Ric Flair's gotten as free a ride as you can have at his age than you possibly can. And also he's got PR positives in the sense that he nearly died and he came back from it. He's nearly died multiple times. He nearly died in a plane crash and survived that. And then he had that incident a couple of years back as well when everyone thought that he was on death's door, and he's come back to not only do that but to wrestle one final match as well. I think that there is a unbelievable amount of affection towards Ric Flair, which is essentially going to steer him through any turbulent waters that he ever comes across and make sure that they're only just, fleeting issues rather than something that's ever going to kill his legacy or his career. So that's why I don't think I can go any lower than a 6, because Ric Flair's essentially Teflon. Nothing will ever bring him down.
I'm going to 4. Because even though Ric Flair seems to get a pass from a lot of people and they kind of judge him as like, that's Rick, I'm not going to give him a higher score than some of the other people that I've given low scores to, like Paige and, Bob Holly and whatnot. Because I'm going to hold him accountable for it. And I think that there's a lot of stuff that wouldn't fly now that people are just kind of willing to do the whole like, oh, older people tend to they're from a different era, so it doesn't matter as much. And if you were to catch them in the act of doing any of that stuff now, I think that you can't go from the 5+. So I'm going to go 4.
I do think you should raise Paige's score a little bit. It's a little harsh, but
she had a lot of issues going on for a while there. Yeah,
I will also say, what your scores for Kane right now for public relations?
The Kane one. If we were gonna do an adjustment of Kane, it's certainly not going to be as high as it was.
Currently, you have Kane at a 9.
He was at a 9 before. That's not good anymore.
I do understand. I'm not saying that you guys are wrong for your scores whatsoever. By any other standards, he should be that low down. I just think that, again, as much as I dislike this and I don't think this is right, I've talked about ages in multiple times about the whole Mike Tyson situation and why he gets a free pass for things that other people would never see daylight again if they'd gone through a lot of the stuff that he went through. But at the end of the day, that's how the world operates, and Rick is like, at the end of the day, like, had like Cody Rhodes and loads of other people talking at that show. Just feel like if they really were worried about what people thought of Ric Flair, they would never have attached their names to this thing. But
to go a step further, a guy like Hogan, who Callum was talking about, people don't want to touch Hogan. it's crazy how there's this weird aura of like, oh, here comes Hulk. But with Flair, and maybe it's because of the fact that what you see is what you get. But with Flair, there's just never been that energy to it. I don't know how to explain it.
Well, rounding this out, we got crowd reaction, popularity, and credibility. Popularity is pretty self-explanatory, how popular are they? And credibility is more of their kayfabe kind of positioning. Obviously, Hall of Famers and everything, that gives you a boost. But the likelihood that you are like a Brock Lesnar where you beat pretty much every single person easily, or if you are somebody on the lower end who gets their ass kicked all the time. So I'm going a 9 for popularity. Flair could be a 10. It's hard to tell. I mean, I haven't given a 10 out to, I think, anybody. No, I give a 10 to Austin. Flair, of his era, was a 10, and he's continued to still be super popular despite his age and everything. So I can see that being a 10. I don't know. I might have to come back to that. At the very least, he's a 9, though. I mean, the guy is all over the place with people just like, like Snoop Dogg will be like, okay, yeah, Ric Flair, Yeah, you know what? I think I probably will give him a 10. Credibility, though, I can't give him a 10. Yeah, he's a 16-time world champion and all that, but he lost a lot of matches, and he would win matches just because he was like, he's winning the championship because he cheated and everything. So, Hall of Famer and all that, yeah. But if you've got Ric Flair in a match for decades, I'm not necessarily thinking that he's going to win. So, I'm going to go an 8 on that one.
So, I have him at an 8 for both. I've been an 8 for popularity because here is where I do take into account a -2 for that section of the audience that just doesn't want to see Ric Flair because they don't. They're that section that doesn't care about it. Oh, it was another time. Like, they're over Ric Flair. They're over the stories. They don't want to see it. So I'm putting him at an 8 for that. And for credibility, he's at an 8 because not only everything Tony mentioned, but there is just the God's honest truth that whenever Hogan came around, whenever there was someone else, Ric Flair is the kind of guy who would be slotted to the mid card. Like, he left WWE in '93 because Vince flat out said, I'm gonna go younger. I can keep you around in a mid card spot, or you can go back to WCW. So he went, and then as soon as Hogan came, he's fighting Conan for the U.S. title. So I give him an 8, but he is a 16-time world champion. He is a 2-time Hall of Famer. He's everything wrestling is, except one of the guys that really gets credit for carrying promotions.
So I've gone 10 for popularity. Even though I agree with Rob, there are people now that just won't want to get involved with him at all, and you can argue they're right to do so. I think that that's a very small minority. And throughout the course of his entire career, Ric Flair has been the biggest star in pretty much any promotion that he's been in, except for towards the very back end of his career. But you can say that, yeah, through WCW and WA, he was the biggest name in wrestling alongside Hulk Hogan.
I definitely get it. Like, he's easily someone who I think, as time has gone on, surprisingly, I think his impact now, with all like the Ric Flair drip kind of stuff, is probably greater in the mainstream than it was, when he was an active competitor.
So what are you going for credibility? Did we lose Callum?
Might have lost Callum.
We might have lost him. In the meantime, I am tallying up my score. we'll come back to Callum's credibility score. Then he'll be able to give his full score. I'm at a 78.
I'm
overall.
at a 79, and honestly, I feel like that's a bit low for Flair, but I'm just doing the math, you know? Like, Flair to me, it's so weird. Like, him and Hogan are nearly the epitome of the Joker quote. Either die a hero or live long enough to see yourself become the villain.
That's Two-Face.
What? Yeah, that's what I said.
You said Joker.
Hey, you're the one that's sick today, not me. So they really are the epitome of that quote, because, if Hogan passes before the tape leaks, we're all talking about how he's, the number one icon, greatest of all time. Same thing with Flair. I think Flair has always had a bit more of an openly rocky relationship, because he is openly a flawed man who's been married 5 times, who's, doesn't want to stop being Ric Flair. And while we're here, while we're waiting for Callum to reconnect, I do want to openly speak about, I want everyone to take away from Ric Flair's last match. Please tell people you love them, despite their shortcomings. Please make people feel safe at home. Like, let people know that they have a place to go to where they don't need to be on. Because my heart was breaking for Ric Flair, and he did the best he could. I'm not going to sit here and say that it was like the worst thing I've ever seen. It was just like, man, I wish you didn't need this.
Yeah.
I wish I wasn't reading interviews where you said, for one night I get to be myself again. I don't want that for you. I want you to feel safe and feel happy as whomever you are outside of the ring.
Yeah, because there's plenty of people that when they've left pro wrestling, they've just been like, you know what, I'm super into, I don't know, the real estate, or they're playing with my grandkids or whatever, and they're fine. And then other people are just doing the convention circuit, and they're living off of what their heyday used to be, and always telling stories and everything like that, which it's fine enough, but it's another thing to feel like you have to get back into the ring. And the quote that you said about the I get to be me thing, you can tell that he misses that and everything. And I don't know if in hindsight if it was necessarily a good idea to do this whole thing, but he did say at the time that it was better than his previous retirement, so at least he's getting some kind of happiness when it comes to that.
He really did, and I'm sorry, I cannot agree with that. Maybe he feels that way because so many more people can now come forward. Like, it wasn't just, hey, here's the WWE locker room emptying out. It was like, here's everyone in the world sending in pictures and videos and all these things. But like, for me, it was just like that Shawn Michaels retirement that's those 3 days, Saturday Hall of Fame, Sunday Mania, Monday the send-off, are maybe the best things WWE has ever done for someone. Legitimately, like, I don't know of any better send-off. Undertaker, who damn sure deserved a better send-off from Vince McMahon and the WWE, didn't get a better send-off than that. That is the best way to honor someone that I've ever seen. And I just don't know if this accomplished that, but if it did for him, then I'm all for it.
So we're still struggling to get Callum on here. I don't know if he's going to be able to reconnect. We might have lost him necessarily for good. Not for good. That's, I'll never hear from him again. But I do see...
that's morbid. Thanks.
Yeah, I do see his scores up on our spreadsheet. And it looks like he gave 10 for popularity, as he was saying, and a 9 for credibility.
Yes, he is saying here that his internet died. He wants us to let you know that he gave Flair a 9 for credibility, that he probably won't be back online. So Callum has the highest score overall with an 84.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like that's better. I'm not going to go back and fix my score. I just feel like internally, I'm a bigger Flair fan than my score shows. But when you break it down from an honest perspective, like, it is what it is.
You know, what's funny is there's you got 84 for Callum, and somebody else he gave an 84. I've got a 78. You've got a 79. There's somebody else, that same person, that wears 79 and 79. So that other person is Brock Lesnar, who has a 79, a 79, and an 84. And then Ric Flair is a 78, a 79, and an 84.
Two Minnesota wrestling legends. Two Brock, and at this point, it's so crazy, right? Because Brock is still going. And it seems like a long time ago that it was like a pipe dream that he would ever come back. And I feel like Flair's the opposite, where he's just gone for so long that I don't know if he'll ever truly stop.
What, you think Flair's going to wrestle again?
No, to be clear, I hope he will. But I can never fully say that he wouldn't. Because he's Ric Flair.
That's true.
And, you know, DDP said during the roast that you could retire 5 more times and we'd all still come and watch it because you're Ric Flair. Cody Rhodes said during the last match, he sent in a video saying, you can do whatever you want. You can come out on Raw and beat the hell out of me. And I'm fine with that because you're Ric Flair. So I think that's the takeaway here. No matter what the numbers show, he's Ric Flair. And he'll always be one of the best of all time.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people are going to go, why isn't he closer to a 100? And if you look at our different scores that we have, I think the highest overall 3-person average that we have is Undertaker, and that's a 90.67.
And even that, I think, can be argued at this point. Do we lower him for public relations? You know
right.
What I mean, like,
because he does have a much higher score for public relations than we could have gone at this point. So you get certain people that, like, they get super high, but they still end up with that 80-something average, and Ric Flair's at an 80.33.
And to touch on one final thing, because I do know, in the same vein that people are going to say, why didn't you give him 100? There will be people who are like, how did you not give him
a 1 for PR
for public relations? Yeah. And to touch on that, I'm quite frankly super duper surprised that Callum gave him the highest score. But, like, we try to be as fair and objective as we can, you know? And that's it. That's all I got to say.
That's our breakdown. So you tell us what your score is in the comments below. And if you want to help support us through different means outside of just doing that and hitting the like button and all that, then you should pass a little bit of a spare change right our way. You know, we don't have the money that Ric Flair has. So hit the thanks button if you feel so inclined, or you can get on the Patreon, or you can click join on YouTube. It's the same exact thing. You got the Darkcast, you got the Pick Your Poison tier, you know. You also got merchandise shops, TeePublic and Redbubble, if you want to pick up a t-shirt or any other kinds of things that those different designs can go on. And if you are just listening to us and all that, then that helps out quite a bit too. But that is it for the Superstar Scores stuff. If you want to check out the next episode that's going to be coming your way, it's going to be another episode of the Hot Tags. And then we're going to get into some of the other things that we're pre-recording ahead of time. I will be in Brazil for a little bit, so we're going to kind of knock these things out on the week that I'm feeling like this. But hopefully my energy level is up higher for the next episode. Either the next one is either going to be the mock draft pay-per-view cards for AEW and WWE, or it's going to be the discussion on the top rope list and Mount Rushmore of UK wrestlers from WWE history. I don't know which one I'm going to release first, but you will hear it when it goes up. And if you are subscribed and you have the email alert set up, then you'll get an email when that does go up. And that's kind of the whole point. So if you want to follow and like and share everything that's over here, do the same thing over to fanboysanonymous.com. That's the sister website for all the geek culture topics and stuff. And if you got the YouTube channel and the podcasts and everything that's over there, you know, you helped out that brand. It's going to help out the same as helping out Smark Out Moment. But You can also go to amangotree.com and see what else I'm up to, and follow me and like and all that over at Tony Mango. Follow Callum at Wigmeister14. Check out what he's got going on with the power rankings and stuff, and check out what Rob's up to.
Absolutely, and you can check me out. I regularly contribute to like the Triple Threat on Smark Out Moment. You can see my work on Fightful. You can see my work on WrestleZone. I'm mostly a Fightful guy at this point. Almost 3 years I've been working for Tony. And yeah, follow me at Dude Felice everywhere, and we'll see you in the next one.
Alrighty, everybody, that's it for this edition. Thank you for listening, and thank you for all your support, and we will see you next time. But for now, this has been another Smark Out Moment, and we are being counted out.